Dun, 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 dun. Boxing's fucking dead. It's over. That's a wrap for boxing. Let's just go ahead and call it quits. Tyson Fury fought Francis Ngannou. I was completely wrong. I thought Francis was gonna get fucking seriously hurt, and Francis ended up fucking putting the work on fucking Tyson Fury. You know what? This is not really the first blow. The first blow was really Mayweather versus McGregor. Because McGregor is actually giving Mayweather work, and Mayweather's supposed to be like the greatest of all time, the best that boxing had to offer. But he was an old man. There was still some built-in excuses, like he was an old man, he was retired, blah, blah, blah. McGregor's young, blah, blah, blah. All this other shit. And McGregor still took him to 8 rounds and won like the first 3 or 4, and they still try to fuck with the judges. And he got a questionable stoppage. What we just witnessed with Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury was Francis put to shame boxing as a art and as a sport. Because when you think about this from a logical perspective, Tyson Fury is the lineal heavyweight champion. He beat the man who beat the man. He collected all the belts. He took out everybody there is to take out. The only person he had left to beat that would undoubtedly like solidify his regime was a light heavyweight that he almost outweighs by another 60 pounds. And he was supposed to smoke Francis. This was not supposed to be a match at all. At all. And I'm looking at the pad hitting. I'm looking at what's going on. I'm like, dude, there's no way Francis. There's absolutely no way. Francis he's gonna gas out by the second, third round, and that's gonna be his ass. Wrong. No, Francis went to work. Francis went to work on Fury. Even dropped him. And the drop, it wasn't even so bad that it was a drop, because I mean anybody can get clipped. It's heavyweight boxing, but it was the pressure that Francis put on there, like, yeah, dude, you're just a fighter. I don't know what you think that this boxing shit is, but you're just a fighter. I hate to tell you this, brother. And upon realizing that Fury realizing that, holy shit, this guy does not give a fuck about like any of the mythology of boxing, Fury was in shambles. And the bitch ass judges, they gave away the decision because they were never gonna let fucking Francis win that. They were never gonna let him. Francis had to knock that nigga out and get like a 20 count. But it further solidified 2 things. First, boxing is as corrupt as it ever has been and ever will be. Like, they refuse to let anybody in MMA even have a chance to win. And 2, it really makes you question, what is boxing? Like, what are we watching? When we watch 2 world-class boxers, what are we actually watching? Because when I watched Francis versus Fury, Francis looked like he knew what the fuck he was doing. He looked effective. He wasn't falling for feints. He was like, come on, brother, you going to hit me or you're not going to hit me? I'm going to trade one with you. I'm going to trade one with you. You can trade one with me. And I'm watching this shit, and I'm saying, what the fuck? Like, this is incredible. Because it's not so much that, like, it's just the lack of respect to boxing. He threw a Superman punch, which is one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in a boxing match. It was fucking hilarious. Cause I don't know why most people don't throw Superman punch. I don't know if that's illegal or not. But Francis looked like he belonged in a boxing ring. Which says a lot because the man's 37 years old, never boxed in his fucking life, besides hitting mitts and fighting MMA fights, which is the element of boxing, but he never have done boxing. And for Fury to look so in shambles, and to see Fury in the after interviews, to pretend like he actually won the fight, but you could see that the emotion, he was like, dude, I lost. I fucking lost this, and they gave me a robbery. They gave me a fucking robbery. It brings into question, what are we even watching when we're watching boxing? Because really, when you think about it, the actual essence of boxing, when you look at the actual meaning of what it means to be a boxer, it means to hit and not get hit. And realistically, if we were watching a real boxing match, an actual like real boxing match, it would be terribly boring because it would be just two guys circling around each other, jabbing each other. That is really the essence of boxing, is just to hit the guy and you not to get hit. But now what we have is called pugilism, which is not necessarily boxing. Pugilism is just the art of fucking fighting with your hands. That's all pugilism is. So we are no longer in the essence of boxing. I don't think boxing ever did really exist, ever in any history or any like prize fighting way. Simply, we just call prize fighting boxing. And that's seriously what it was. And so I'm watching this shit and I'm saying, what the fuck? Like, dude, this is supposed to be the best of the heavyweights of all time. Like, I even said in a previous YouTube video, this is the best boxer we have ever seen, maybe besides Lennox Lewis. I don't think there's anybody ever better than Tyson Fury. And fucking Francis, a guy who never fucking fought boxing in his life, 37 years old, confident, reconstructed knee surgery, beat the best of all time. Beat the goddamn best of all time. And I'm watching this shit. I'm saying, dude, what the like? Boxing's in shambles. It's a wrap. Boxing, like, dude, boxing can never walk itself back into the face of reality and actually claim itself to be a sport, and with any legitimacy anymore. Because not only will you cheat to make sure your guy wins, your best guy, who you could put against everybody throughout the annals of history of time, he got his ass kicked by a newcomer. What are we talking about here? And like the perception of it, it's so amazing because once again, McGregor. Hey, Rays, I'm filming on YouTube. Like, give me like 5 more minutes so I can go solo. Fuck, I shouldn't even said that on YouTube. But anyway, the aspect of it when I'm watching is like, dude, what are we watching when we're watching boxing? Are we really just watching characters essentially just hit each other in the face? Because one of the things I looked at is when we look at the Canelo aspect, like Canelo's now the cash cow of boxing. And when you really look at why is Canelo the cash cow of boxing, when you really think about why did Canelo get chosen after Mayweather retired, why was Canelo chosen as the guy to basically carry the torch of boxing? Basically, it came down to because he was the last guy to get beat up that we knew by Mayweather. He was the most noticeable guy that Mayweather beat up. That's essentially why Canelo became the cash cow of boxing. Now, how does that make sense? Legitimately as a sport. And once again, I don't blame Tyson Fury for this. I blame Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather created the epidemic that we call boxing today, a modern boxing, where guys simply refuse to fight any other guy unless it's under perfect circumstances, by which they almost guarantee a victory on their home turf with all the certified advantages. And when that started, when he realized, hold up a second, I don't actually have to fight the best guys every fucking time. I can just play a villain, get people to watch, beat the fuck out of them, not get hurt, and draw it out for long, boring conclusions. Because really, when you watch a Floyd Mayweather fight, it's not actually very interesting because Floyd realized nobody gives a fuck if I just knock guys out. Nobody cares. When I was Pretty Boy Floyd knocking niggas out left and right and breaking my hands, nobody cared. I was still broke. I wasn't making any money. It wasn't until I decided to be the Mexican killer and beat De La Hoya. At that point in time, I then became the guy. That's when I became the guy. But before that, I was just I was actually a purist. I actually wanted to be real in the sport. I actually wanted to be the guy. And what he realized was, no, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Let me just get the cash grab. And Mayweather, on the way out, because what's supposed to happen in combat sports is like what happens in every other aspect of nature in the king of the jungle type situations is the alpha, the guy who's the top guy at the top of the food chart or top of the food chain, he's supposed to get killed or beat by the newcomer, and the newcomer ends up taking his fucking spot, and he goes off into the fucking sunset and lives the rest of his retirement, and the new guy now takes reign. That is supposed to be the way that is supposed to occur. Mayweather fucked that whole thing up. See, Muhammad Ali took his L to get the fuck out. Evander Holyfield took his L to get the fuck out. Mike Tyson took his L to get the fuck out. De La Hoya took his L to get the fuck out. Everybody else took the L to get the fuck up out of there. Klitschko, everybody. They all took their L and got the fuck out of the game. Except for Mayweather. Mayweather got out with the bag. Because you know what he did? He said, hold up a second. I got one more fight on fight in me. There's an MMA guy named McGregor, and he's a big star. And he knows how to talk. He can carry the load on the promotion side too. Fuck that. Why the fuck would I fight a real killer on my way out and get knocked out for some reason? No, let me go get this money and get the fuck out of here. And when he did that, it left boxing in shambles. There was nobody to take the new throne of being the new guy in boxing. And so from that point on, it has been a shit show for boxing. It's simply a shit show. And it's been an open shit show now because at this point, we all know boxing might not be real. And then Jake Paul actually also kind of proved this shit too, because Jake Paul, he was fighting MMA fighters. He was fighting real legitimate guys that had actually better like qualifications than what the most average fighter fights coming up. Like the average fighter starts off, he fights in an amateur. He fights 100 fights in amateurs, and then he starts off with like 6 4-round fights. Then he goes to 6 rounds, 8 rounds, and then he finally gets a championship title shot after 10 rounds. And by the time he's 20 fights in the game, he's now fighting 12 rounds in actual contenders. And then even then, he'll fight a contender, fight 4 bullshit matches, and then fight a contender. Fight 4 bullshit matches, then fight a contender. Boxing just kept padding the records because for some reason, in the boxing community, it's important to have a 0 at the end of your fucking record. For some reason, that means something. I don't know why. I don't know who gave people this information, but for some reason, that means that you are actually good. And I don't know how. And that's the other thing with boxing too. Why boxing's dead. Because boxing did this to himself. It was inevitable. There's 4 champions for each weight class. And there's like a weight class every 3.5 pounds, 4 pounds, or something like that. 3 pounds, I believe. Why the fuck is there so many champions? How the hell do you have so many champions? And how can you call your sport a legitimate sport when you have four world champions? How does that make sense? And this nonsense of unifying the title. If you don't fight this guy, this mandatory defender for one of the belts that you have, then they're going to strip you of your belt. So if you got 4 belts and you have mandatory defenses, how the fuck do you defend that? That means you got guaranteed 4 fights. You can't go out and search fights. So like the whole essence of boxing has been broken down, and Francis Ngannou was the one to bring it down. And it's kind of funny because Francis will probably never get another huge paycheck for boxing again, because the boxing community is gonna be like, get this fucker out of here. No, there's no way we're not gonna let him fight Deontay. We're not gonna let him fight AJ. We're not gonna let him fight Joshua. We're not gonna let him fight any other guy that might bring some credibility to this guy beating Fury. And Fury has some answers. Fury's gonna have to go talk to the bosses because they're looking at Fury like, Fury, we let you skip mandatory defenses with Usyk. This is supposed to be within the community. You're supposed to put this guy on skates and beat the shit out of him and make boxing great again. And you went out there and got embarrassed by a complete amateur who just stood in front of you and punched you. He did a Superman punch, man. God damn it, he did a Superman punch. So boxing is dead as a sport. And I don't have any more messages, man. Like just the final nail in the coffin. The final nail in the coffin is gonna be Jake Paul versus Canelo. Because I promise you, Canelo's looking for his way out. He doesn't want to fight Benavidez. He doesn't want to fight any of those real killers. So he's like, you know what? Payday. He's coming for Jake Paul. Book it.